There was a time when the school bell meant more than the start of class. It meant following rules that kids today would barely believe. Teachers could take things away, send you to the principal, embarrass you in front of the class. And in many schools, the punishment didn't stop there. Back then, parents rarely questioned the teacher. Most of them sided with the school, because that's just how things were. Today, some of those same rules would spark outrage. Others would never be allowed at all. So how did American schools go from this to what they are today? Picture a hallway in 1974. Linoleum floors waxed to a shine. The smell of chalk dust and cafeteria meatloaf drifting from somewhere down the corridor. A bell that didn't chime, it screamed metal on metal, and every kid in that building knew exactly what it meant. Move, now, don't be late. Because being late wasn't just embarrassing back then. It was dangerous. In 1970s America, the classroom wasn't a place of self-expression. It was a place of order. Teachers weren't there to be your friend or your therapist or your emotional support system. They were the law. And the law came with consequences that today would end a career in a single afternoon. You have to understand the world these classrooms sat inside. This was an America still shaking off Vietnam. Still watching Nixon resign on television. Parents were tired, distracted, working longer hours than their own parents had. And so schools became something more than schools. They became the last line of discipline in a country that felt, to a lot of adults, like it was coming apart at the seams. So they held the line the only way they knew how. With fear. It started small. A ruler across the knuckles for talking out of turn. A note home that your mother read in silence, her face tightening in a way that told you the real punishment hadn't happened yet. But by the mid-1970s, it had become something structural. Something written into policy. Corporal punishment wasn't some rogue teacher losing their temper. It was legal. In most states, it was expected. A principal's office wasn't where you went to talk about your feelings. It was where the paddle lived, hanging on the wall sometimes in plain sight, like a warning nobody needed to explain twice. You knew the sound before you ever felt it. Other kids told you. Older siblings told you. The walk down that hallway alone was its own punishment, longer than any hallway had a right to be. And the control didn't stop at discipline. It reached into the smallest corners of your day. You couldn't even leave the room without permission. Every classroom had a hall pass, sometimes a laminated card, sometimes a wooden block the size of a brick, sometimes just a signature on a slip of paper. No pass, no bathroom. No pass, and a hall monitor could stop you cold in the middle of the corridor and march you straight back to class like you tried to escape something. You learned to time your bladder to the clock. You learned which teachers would say yes and which ones would make you wait until you were squirming in your seat, hand raised, praying they'd notice before it became a problem. And if you got caught in the hallway without that pass, that wasn't a shrug it off moment. That was a name written down. That was a reason. And it wasn't just the paddle or the pass. Teachers could publicly shame you for a bad grade, read your test score out loud to the whole class like it was a verdict. Dunce caps had mostly faded by then, but their spirit hadn't. Standing in the corner, facing the wall, writing the same sentence on the chalkboard 100 times until your hand cramped and your dignity had quietly left the room. Girls couldn't wear pants in a lot of schools until well into the decade. Boys got sent home for hair touching their collar. Dress codes weren't suggestions. They were law, enforced with a ruler measuring skirt length against the floor, in front of everyone, while you stood there and prayed you'd pass. Detention wasn't a warning. It was a sentence. And if you talked back, you didn't talk back. So, tell us in the comments, which teacher did you fear most during your time, and did you ever get sent to the principal's office? What happened when you got there? Let's continue. This is the part that's hard to explain to anyone who didn't live it. None of this felt unusual at the time. That's the piece that gets lost. This wasn't some dark secret hiding in the shadows of American education. It was the water everyone swam in. Parents signed permission slips for corporal punishment without blinking. PTA meetings didn't debate whether teachers should be allowed to hit kids. They debated other things. This one was already settled. And it wasn't only about discipline. It was about obedience in every form. Every single morning you stood, hand over your heart, said the same words in unison with 30 other kids, whether you understood them or not. The Pledge of Allegiance wasn't optional, it was the opening ceremony of the day, as automatic as the bell itself. And in a lot of schools, that wasn't even where it stopped. Some mornings opened with a prayer too, spoken out loud, no permission slip, no opt-out form, no conversation about it at all. If you were the one kid who didn't stand, for religious reasons, for family reasons, for any reason at all, you knew it. Everyone knew it. There was no quiet way to sit that one out. You felt every eye in that room without ever having to turn your head. Because the culture outside the classroom mirrored the culture inside it. This was the era of spare the rod, spoil the child, a phrase grandparents still said out loud without irony. Norman Lear was putting hard truths on television with All in the Family, but at home, most families still ran on old rules. Archie Bunker's living room and your homeroom teacher's classroom weren't so different. Both ruled by a certain kind of authority nobody thought to question. And there was a kind of unity in it, strange as that sounds now. You and your classmates were all under the same system. The kid with the best grades and the kid who always got sent to the office both knew the rules applied the same way to everybody. There was no negotiating your way out. No parents showing up to argue at the front desk. It built something in a lot of people. A toughness, a knowing your place that some folks today still say they miss. But it broke something in others. Because for every kid who tells that story with a laugh now, the ruler, the corner, the dunce cap, there's another kid who never talks about it at all. Who still flinches at a raised voice. Who remembers the shame more than the lesson it was supposed to teach. That's the part nostalgia likes to skip over. Then, slowly the ground started to shift. By the late 1970s and into the 80s, psychologists started publishing research that dismantled the old logic piece by piece. Corporal punishment wasn't building discipline, the studies said. It was building fear. And fear, it turned out, wasn't the same thing as respect. Parents who had once signed those permission slips without a second thought started asking questions their own parents never asked. Lawyers got involved. Lawsuits followed. State by state, the paddle came down off the wall. Massachusetts banned it first, back in 1971, and other states followed at their own pace, some taking decades to catch up. New Jersey, New York, California. One by one, the states that had built their classrooms on obedience through fear started rebuilding them on something else entirely. It didn't happen overnight. It happened over a generation. A teacher who started their career administering the paddle without a second thought might have ended it decades later, in a school that treated the very idea as unthinkable, even criminal. And here's the part that might genuinely surprise you. This story doesn't end with a clean finish line. Even now, in this decade, close to 20 American states have never fully banned corporal punishment in public schools. Places like Texas and Mississippi still allow it on the books today. Paddling is rarer than it once was, and most districts have quietly stopped using it, but rare isn't the same as gone. For some kids, in some classrooms, that hallway you just watched in your mind isn't only a memory. It's still somebody's Tuesday. Everywhere else, though, the system didn't just change. It reversed itself completely. Today, corporal punishment is banned in most American public schools. The dress code battles turned into different battles entirely. The dunce cap is a punchline, not a punishment. And a teacher who so much as raises a hand to a student now faces not just termination, but arrest. Maybe you sat in one of those classrooms. Maybe you remember the exact sound the paddle made against the wall of the principal's office, even though you never saw it used. Maybe you remember standing in the corner, counting the cracks in the plaster, waiting for a punishment to end that felt like it never would. Maybe you remember standing with your hand over your heart, saying words you didn't fully understand yet, because that's just what you did every morning at 8 o'clock. Or maybe you remember something else entirely. A teacher who was strict but fair. A kind of order that, looking back, gave you something steady to hold on to in a world that already felt unsteady. Both of those memories are true. That's the uncomfortable part. We don't get to pick and choose which pieces of the past to keep. The toughness and the fear came from the same place. The order and the shame walked through the same hallway, past the same lockers, under the same flickering fluorescent lights. Somewhere between then and now, we decided fear wasn't worth what it cost. And maybe that was right. But if you were there, If you remember that hallway, that bell, that walk to the principal's office that felt longer than it had any right to be, then some part of you will always know exactly what that world sounded like. The scrape of a hall pass sliding across a desk. The click of a paddle being lifted off its hook. A whole classroom standing in silence, hands over hearts, before the day had even begun. Tell us in the comments, did you ever get sent to the principal's office? What happened when you got there? And if this took you back, hit subscribe. The Nostalgia Vault brings you the America you remember, one decade at a time.